Hi guys, hope you're well. So today I have another testimonial for you. We have Alex from Spain, and don't want to waste any time, so we'll just get straight into it. Maybe Alex, you can just introduce yourself to the community, give a little bit of history about your symptoms, how you found us, and yeah, let's maybe start there.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. It all started for me around 10 years ago. I was going through a very stressful period at work, and I started to have a lot of little things here and there, stomach issues, and then also some visual issues. I remember the first symptoms were visual snow, palinopsia, and after images. And I could like tell that something was not okay because I had never experienced that before. But I checked with a couple of doctors. They said everything was good. So, it stayed in the back of my mind, but kind of like knowing that I wasn't going through normal symptoms. But since doctors didn't really like know what to tell me, then I kind of like continue with my life. I was like this for a couple of years. I would say it didn't really affect too much the quality of my life. It was just there. But then with time and more stress, it started to intensify, and also new symptoms started to appear. I remember probably the worst moment was like around 5 years ago when I started to have tinnitus for the first time. And that was a really bad experience. It was like 10 out of 10 tinnitus, like overnight, super, super bad. And then it did kind of like go down by trying to have a healthier lifestyle overall. But then the last couple of years, I started to have more symptoms, right? Like the ones I had at the beginning never really disappeared, but I kept like kind of like adding more symptoms in the bucket, like flickering, for example, peripheral flickering, or things like shaky lines or shaky vision. And that started to really affect the quality of my life. And then it's when I decided to contact you.
Okay. So it was a prolonged period of kind of anxiety. And what would you say like during that time? How was your kind of day-to-day life? Like, would you say like
I
when it
would
was really
say,
intense? Hmm.
so I would say I did my life, like I worked, I had my personal life, but with time it got worse and worse because the worse the symptoms were, and the more accumulation of symptoms I underwent, the worse my quality of life. So I would say I was functional-ish until like a year ago, more or less, before contacting you,
Hmm.
when I realized that those symptoms had started to take over my life and my quality of life, and then I could see that I couldn't continue like that because then I would get into like a really bad state of like myself, like in mindset as well, mentality, mental health. It was starting to affect me a lot.
Of course, yeah. And in terms of like, let's just say on a scale of 1 to 10, right? At your worst level, saying 10 out of 10, where would you say you are right now compared to back in those times?
So compared to where I was, I would say I'm fully functional now. I would say I'm at 1 out of 10. So like but I know that I'll be like 0 out of 10 like very soon because every month I'm feeling better and better.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I no longer think that I'm going through issues because I barely see any symptoms anymore. Like, and if someday I see something, it's no longer taking over my life, you know?
And that's interesting because that's obviously what I usually tell my clients. That's the last part of healing, right? The last 10 to 15% is usually when you forget about your symptoms. And that's how you actually heal the last 10 to 15% of your symptoms. See, that's where a lot of people make that mistake. They don't realize that they'll get to that last 10% and they start to panic because the last part of healing can be quite slow.
Mhm.
But the whole point is when you get to that last 10, 15% of healing, right? That's when you really need you kind of your anxiety's gone, things have kind of settled, you're fully functional again, and your body starts to calm down the alarm signals. And that's when the remaining symptoms resolve. for most people. So that last 10 to 15% is when you'll see people will be like, oh, well, I can't remember seeing that visual snow. I think I saw it the other day. Or you just forget looking for it. And then one day it's not there anymore. That's typically what happens to everybody. Uh,
Yeah, and also you no longer obsess over the symptoms. I think
yeah.
what I've been experiencing the last month is that as the symptoms start to like go away, like sometimes you see them like very, very like mildly, but you no longer focus on them. So then all of a sudden another day you're like, oh, I don't have that symptom anymore. But you
Yeah,
haven't really like
that's yeah,
chased
exactly.
everything. And I
Yeah,
used to chase every evolution
yeah,
of every symptom, you know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the beauty of the last 10%, right? That's what happens is the body, you stop noticing it, and then all of a sudden one day you wake up and you're like, everything's gone, right? And it just you just didn't even notice it because you've moved on with your life, right? You're not focused on symptoms anymore. So that's cool. So just in terms of the specific symptoms, like so your body, etc. You mentioned you had gut issues, the visual stuff, right? Like so specifically, what would you say has changed, like from when you first started to like now?
So I'm calmer. I'm no longer anxious. I'm no longer um, feeling like that state of like fight or flight mode that we all are when we're anxious and looking for like external factors. And I would say that I was kind of like creating more anxiety on myself by chasing the symptoms. I no longer have that, so
Yeah.
I'm much calmer, not anxious about this or about life in general. I think it's all like kind of like connected. And I no longer have gut issues. So, part of the um, I think of the program that we went through has also like helped me improve massively my stomach issues. So yeah, overall calmer and positive.
Yeah. And when you first came, right, like in terms of the other programs that you did and other approaches, because I remember you tried a lot of other stuff. I think you did some nervous system work or whatever. Like, what kind of things did you try before you came to work with us?
I did try like different things a lot, also based on like Reddit blogs and stuff like that, online forums and stuff, because I was a bit lost and kind of like you see a lot of different people saying that something worked for them, but
Hmm.
then other people say, oh, but that didn't work for me, and then they propose an alternative, right? So I was trying different things, um, but also like it was all by myself, right? I didn't really have a program that like helped me with phases and like with support. So it was more like me getting all the ideas that I got online and different forums and stuff like that, and trying to apply it in terms of food or in terms of like lifestyle or nervous work. But I never really put it all together. It was
Hmm.
like I grabbed things from here and there.
Which is what most people do, and that's what confuses confuses the system for a lot of people because when you are picking up stuff from here, stuff from everywhere, a little bit from YouTube, some nervous system work here, your system just gets confused. It's already confused. So when you're adding more confusion on top of that, you're basically just stagnating. So I mean, how important would you say it is for people to like have a plan? Because obviously you had gut issues, right? Gut issues contribute a lot to anxiety, to chemical anxiety in the body. So, having a plan from the functional side and from the nervous system side, how important do you think that is for people who are going through something like this?
Oh, to me that was the life changer because um I had no plan. I just had like bits here and there, and
Yeah.
I made my own plan, which clearly didn't work, right? So to me that was the whole key was to have a plan, and not a plan designed by myself, but by someone like you had that has gone through it and has had experience through other cases. And that's to me that was the only way forward was someone to tell me this works, right? If you follow this plan, it takes your time, like you need to like be patient, but like if you go through this, you will get better. And because throughout the plan, I did get better, and every month that I had a call with you, I did get better, and I was telling you I feel better and better, and symptoms starting to go away. I just followed it. So in my case, the plan was the key.
Yeah. And I think that works for a lot of people as well. I mean, a lot of the people that do get into these kind of conditions tend to be kind of high achievers, people who want statistics and metrics, etc. And whilst that can also have a negative impact on healing, because you remember we talk a lot about taking the pressure off yourself, right? It's important to also see, and as I say to you and a lot to my clients, I'm not there to be your therapist, right? It was more of let's get you into the plan and let's get you, let's create a plan based on your individual situation, right? And let's work out some metrics. And that's what I do with each of my clients. It's all about the end goal. Let's start moving you towards that. I think a lot of people come and when they first start with me, they're just super confused because they've heard so many different things from so many different avenues. And a lot of the time, the first month is about deprogramming people, right? It's about deprogramming those messages that you have in your head from Reddit, that there might be another solution out there, that the Visual Snow Initiative is doing something, all of this crap that just surrounds you, the noise that surrounds you. Um, that is what keeps a lot of the time your body and your nervous system in that kind of hypervigilant state. So we have to deprogram people first before we put them into the program because we start with a clean slate, right? And then we basically look at your symptoms like you had gut issues, etc. Right? We knew we'd had to do some work on the gut, right? So we had to start with that because without that, right, your anxiety is not going to come down. The hypervigilance is going to stay, right? Like what you're experiencing, obviously you're at 1 out of 10 now, you know that your symptoms are pretty much gone, etc. That would not have happened had we not addressed the gut issues, right? And this is
Yeah.
why a lot of people, they get confused because they don't know which order to do things in. They don't know what to do. And there's just so much information out there. I mean, it's even when I went through this, and a long time ago, there wasn't that much information out there, right? But now it's like there's too much information out there, if you know what I mean. And I think that can also cause people to be confused and looking for solutions, literally going from place to place. So
Yeah.
so thanks for that. So we talked a little bit, obviously, the physical layers with you, the mindset work that we did. What was the biggest turning point for you, like during the program? Would you say, like, how long in as well?
I think I don't remember exactly when it was, but I remember that at some point I stopped chasing the symptoms.
Yeah,
And to me, that through the program, right? So at the beginning, I would say the first 2 months, I was still like chasing because also you're skeptical every time you've tried something new. You really need to like give it some time until you see results, right? So the first 2 months I was very vigilant still, like,
yeah,
okay, Jay is telling me this. Do I see results? Am I improving? So I was still very focused on I want to save every week I'm feeling better, right? And like you say, it doesn't necessarily work like that, right? The moment that your mental state like is more relaxed, that's when everything starts to like disappear, to go away. So I
Mhm.
would say the moment I cannot really tell you, I don't know if it was like after 2 or 3 months, but like the moment I stopped chasing everything, it's
Yeah,
when I realized that I was healing.
yeah.
Um, and to be honest, the first month I was already feeling better, but like obviously my symptoms were still, very strong because 1 month is not enough time, right? But I would say at the turning point would be once I stopped chasing, which is something, by the way, that you told me from day one. But I guess it took me some time to interiorize the importance of, forgetting a little bit about the symptoms.
Yeah.
I think that was the turning point for me because then I no longer cared about how what I was seeing, but I was caring more about just trusting the process and following your advice.
And just very quickly, like for people like where you're at right now, right? In terms of just how you feel about life in general compared to like where you were before, right? Like maybe you just want to elaborate on that a little bit.
That's the thing. The fact that I get better, I no longer chase the symptoms. My life's improved massively, right? So I'm happier, I'm more optimistic, I'm more excited about the future, right? So I guess like the moment you stop thinking about that, those symptoms all the time, I don't know, I get kind of like my life back in a way, like I feel, as I said, I'm fully functional. I can do my life, like work, personal life, travel, everything,
Mhm.
um, normally. So I think that's the key to
Mhm.
healing, right?
And visually, you would say like you were at 10 out of 10 at the start. Where would you say you're at now? Visuals, like, I mean, I don't want you to look around, but like we would say like 1 out of 10, perhaps, or
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And it still fluctuates, by the way. Like, some days better, some days worse. But yeah, I'm just like 1 out of 10.
Okay. And who would you recommend this program to? Like if you were gonna say like people who are just, kind of looking at this program for the first time or are going through this for the first time, what would you kind of say to them with regards to the program and maybe just in general as well?
So I guess that someone that has tried a lot of different things without a plan and just like trying to kind of like create their own plan and like trying things without really structure, and they're kind of like frustrated about this not working out, which is where I was, by the way. And also those people whose quality of life is really affected because of the symptoms. I think this is the key, of the program, because in my case, the first couple of years I did have the symptoms, but it didn't really affect my quality of life, so I kind of like just went along with it, right? But the moment it started to kind of like take over my life and like not really, well, it did affect the quality of my life a lot. That's when I would say that it's important to go through a program like this with a structure.
Good stuff. Okay. Well, Alex, thanks for your time, man, and good speaking to you again. And I hope everything works out for you, and I'm sure we'll chat soon. Okay. So
Thank you,
appreciate your
Dave.
time on this. Okay. Cheers,
Thank
buddy.
you.
Okay.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.